I remember back in 2019, not long after MORDHAU came out and saw a relative amount of success on Steam, when Taberna dropped an announcement trailer for a sequel to their game Chivalry Medieval Warfare, and it got me thinking, yeah, okay buddy, cope a little harder. But oddly enough, with how games are usually released these days, they didn't just rush it out to tag along with the success of MORDHAU, and fast forward 2 years later to 2021, and not gonna lie, this game is fun as hell. Though I guess these games are always heaps of fun when they first come out, just like the original Chivalry and MORDHAU were, and I'm a little biased because I've sunk plenty of hours into the medieval hack and slash 'em up genre, and despite that I still suck at them. But Chivalry 2 is more than just an asset swap, with a revised melee combat system, a slight rework of its original class system, as well as some new lore that nobody really gives a shit about. The brutal and bloody battles between the Agatha Knights and Mason Order has seen a welcome overhaul that I believe is certainly for the better. Though I wouldn't really count the original Chivalry as this game's only comparison, but rather also the more recently released MORDHAU, which well and truly took the throne off it a few years ago. But the question is, has Chivalry 2 done enough to retake it? The gist of Chivalry 2's gameplay revolves around its melee combat system, unless you're a little bitch who plays as an archer, which is very similar to the original Chivalry and MORDHAU with its slash, stab and overhead moves, albeit with some tweaks and differences. The biggest difference is that now you can actually hold blocks, and I gotta say, it's a great inclusion. Not only is it massively more friendly towards newer players, but it means that the combat is so much less of you just getting constantly baited out by feints, and revolves more around actual timing and spacing. Many might not agree with me, but this is a great addition in my opinion. Successfully riposting by immediately attacking after a block also blocks other incoming attacks as well, which I also really liked because it gave you an actual chance when outnumbered. It's not like 3v1s are in your favor or anything, but at least you can land some hits without just getting slaughtered. There's still the classic kick move to break blocks, and all classes now have the ability to dodge rather than just being locked to one, and the tutorial is much better. It takes you through more of the advanced concepts like leaning into attacks. Overall, I'm very happy with how the melee combat has been overhauled from the original game. The game certainly hasn't lost its satisfying feel either. It feels great to just absolutely kill the shit out of people in this game, especially when you pull off something cool. And vice versa, you feel it hard every time you get the ass slapped out of you. Every evisceration and dismemberment is a lot of fun, especially when you do it to someone playing as an archer. This shit's got me like Mario Kart Wii with the steering wheel, you know? I'm leaning back and forward in my chair like it helps me dodge attacks and land hits better. That's how you know it's a good ass game. The game has 3 main game modes: 64 player objective based, 40 player objective based, and free for all. Straight off the bat, cross this one off the list. If you're playing the team based game modes, you want as many people running around as possible because this game is at its best when it's chaotic. Masses of people charging at each other, heads and limbs flying around, ballista bolts whizzing around you, getting team killed by some dickhead on the catapult. This is the best way to be playing this game. Free-for-all provides a nice little change of pace and a little more of the 1v1 side of the combat until some arsehole runs in and kills you from behind mid-duel, but I definitely preferred the big battlefield and siege settings, and it made those 1v1 moments you get more rarely in those game modes more exciting. I did like that some of the objective maps were literally just battles as well, a nice break from having to push a siege tower or burn a village, just a pure deathmatch, though the arena map deathmatch fight only has 100 troops per side, so it always ends rather quickly. The game also offers you the choice of playing in first and third person, and I'm not 100% sure which one I prefer, though the majority of my playtime was in third person. First person is definitely better for playing as an archer, for obvious reasons, and I think that you feel a little more of the impact of hits and death in first person, but I feel that for the melee combat, third person just gives you a clear advantage with a wider FOV. Atmospherically, this game is great, lots of yelling and screaming as hordes of people war cry as they rush into battle. Like I said, this game is best when it's chaotic, and with the addition of being able to throw your weapons as well as using any old thing you find lying around, this is certainly exaggerated. Pretty sure I stabbed someone to death with a ballista bolt at some stage. One little addition that made a huge difference for me is how when you initially spawn or respawn after dying, you'll already be sprinting towards the objective, which I thought was great. A little touch, but one much appreciated by me for sure. I did also initially like the little introductions to each battle, usually a little speech being given about something or other, though after a while I got rather tired of them, especially as you see the same ones over and over. One of the things that I definitely preferred about MORDHAU was the class customization options. You could more or less create your own classes from scratch with totally unique and modular armor sets, which was awesome and a lot of fun alongside the gameplay itself. Chivalry 2 was opted out of this, following the same approach to its predecessor with its class-based system, with all of the customization options being purely cosmetic. You'll choose from one of its 4 classes: Archer, Vanguard, Footman, and Knight. These are basically the same classes from the original game, except the Footman replacing Man-at-Arms and being a slightly more tanky and less mobile option, with the Vanguard becoming faster and less sturdy. Each class also has 3 subclasses you unlock through leveling up by playing as them, which mainly just changes the kind of loadout they can have, such as having a sword and shield with the Knight or javelins with the Archer. In a lot of ways, the class and loadout systems have been kinda streamlined. There's a decent amount of weapons to go around, and the game does a good job at showing you their stats and the little tweaks and bonuses they have, but even though playing Archer is for pussies, I was disappointed with the lack of Archer weapons in general. Only one type of bow and crossbow? Come on, you can do better than that. However, other than Archer, there doesn't feel like a huge difference between a lot of the classes other than basically what loadouts you can have equipped. As mentioned, all classes now have the ability to dodge, and the main difference lies in their running speed and how many hits they can take, as well as how effective blunt and slashing damage are on them. In terms of the actual class customization, it's entirely cosmetic. As you rank up classes and weapons, you'll unlock new skins for armor, weapons, and other things like heraldry and voice packs. You unlock them using gold you slowly earn from playing the game, but of course you can just pay for the premium currency instead. I do feel that there's a bit of a lack of customization options here, though we're likely to see more of them roll in later, probably locked behind a paywall. And while I like that you can also unlock the old voice packs from the original Chivalry, you can't create your own heraldry like you could in the old game. You just have to choose one of the preset ones, which kinda sucks the big ones. I would've liked to have seen them move towards the total customization that you get in a game like MORDHAU, because it's great to be able to make a class totally suited to how you play, or to add a bit of spice and challenge to keep the game interesting for longer, especially with how similar the classes in this game feel. But I don't feel like any of the classes are particularly unbalanced at the very least. I didn't find any weapons to be particularly broken, though people in these games still just don't seem to be able to handle stabbing attacks, even after all these years, making ones that have a strong stab pretty good. But my absolute favourite weapon was the shovel. Damn, this thing is good. What aren't balanced all that well, however, are some of the maps, in particular the Slaughter of Coxwell. I don't think I ever saw Agatha win on this map. The objectives are all quite easy, especially when you get to the final objective, where you just have to kill enough of them. The name's quite fitting because it's always a slaughter. There also feels to be a lack of maps in general. The game could certainly do with some more arena style ones and a handful of the more objective based ones as well. It doesn't take too long before you've rotated through all of them. Another part of the game that's totally unbalanced is how it will roll out bots to fill up empty spaces in the server, and while that might sound okay if you haven't played the game, it really isn't. Bots completely ruin game modes like free-for-all or any of the objective-based ones where you just need to score a certain number of kills because they're so easy to kill. Not only because they have less health than the other classes, but they're bots, so they're just fucking incompetent. You can just farm bots for an easy win because they're worth the same as killing an actual player. Honestly, Torn Banner, get them out of free-for-all mode. They just shouldn't be there. The game is also marred by consistent bugs, most of which are just cosmetic, like your weapon not being held in your hands properly, and I cannot begin to tell you how many times my legs were not animating when I first spawned, but I have seen a few game-breaking ones as well, including one time when the prisoner didn't spawn on Escape from Folmire, meaning Agatha literally could not win. And sure, while the combat mechanics actually feel rather polished, certainly a lot more polished than the original Chivalry, there's a little bit of a lack of general QA here, and while most of the time it's not more than a visual thing, it's disappointing nonetheless. But despite that, I've had quite a lot of fun in the 20 odd hours I've played in Chivalry 2. It maintains that same incredibly satisfying feel that's the core of these kinds of games, and was a lot better than I was expecting it to be after how promptly Torn Banner dropped that trailer in 2019. But the thing that happens with these kinds of games, like what happened to MORDHAU and especially the first Chivalry game, is that eventually the player base is just people who've been playing for ages and are both really good at the game and know all the best tactics and exploits. And that's why these games are always the most fun when they first come out, when most people also suck at it and it's at its chaotic best. Hell, even I was topping the leaderboard at times here, and I suck balls at this game. The best time to get into Chivalry 2 is right now before it gets too sweaty and while there's still a good amount of people playing. And with all that being said, I do still feel that the combat has been overhauled in a way to make it more new player friendly, especially now that you're able to hold blocks so it's not an endless slog of fainting out new players. So if you're a little scared to get into MORDHAU nowadays, then Chivalry 2 might just be the game for you.